All right, let's kick into costume. And let's do an anatomy of costume in the Quattrocento. And it looked something like this, and was basically confined to the Italian city-states. Here are a couple of images that I think give you an idea of the kind of silhouette we're looking at. It is completely different to what we saw in the 1400s elsewhere in Europe, isn't it? No hoopalands. Let's break it down. Let's do an anatomy. It started off with a camicia. A camicia. This was a simple long-sleeved linen smock. Now you'll see, a lot of the words we're going to be using in this lecture are Italian, not French. Why? France lost its crown when it came to fashion, didn't it? The focus shifted to Italy, and so we are going to be talking Italian in this lecture, at least for the first part of it. The camicia, a long-sleeved smock dress. Over that went the gamura. Gamura. This was a high-waisted dress, often with detachable sleeves, and it's understood that a gamura has a high waist. Over the gamura went the giornia, reminding you here not to call it empire waist. It was a dress that was split at the sides, then belted just below the bosom. And that's what it looked like when it all came together. And here's a slightly clearer image. Look at the sleeves. They are often divided into two, the upper sleeve and the foresleeve, and then they are tied at the middle. It's a very interesting silhouette, isn't it? I absolutely love it. I think it's so pretty and so flattering. This gives you an image of what all this looked like from the side. And you can see the giornia is split down the sides, so it reveals the dress beneath. And as the Quattrocento progressed, you'll find that the skirts got a little fuller, everything got a tiny bit fuller. And this is what they look like from the back. So let's do an anatomy of 16th century Italo-Spanish costume. Costume from Italy and Spain, because they were the dominant cultures. And of course, when we talk about Italian fashion, art and culture in this century, we talk about the Cinquecento, right, the Cinquecento. But I find that rather difficult to say, so I'm just going to call it the 1500s. Well, hopefully you can see immediately that the silhouette has changed. It's become quite enormous. The world had doubled in size. In 1492, the world had doubled in size, and fashion responded. Fashion got big. You had to work even harder to show your importance, to show your wealth, to show your status. Everything got big. And here are some images that show you how big everything got for men and for women, with huge sleeves, big skirts, an awful lot of billowing satin. Let's break it down. Basically, we're really working with the same layered idea here. You started with your smock, and then we meet something new that we'll look at in further depth in a bit. Not exactly a corset, it's something called a busk. It was made out of whalebone, and it didn't pull you in at the waist as corsets in the later centuries would do. It sort of flattened you out and stiffened your torso to give you a very firm scaffold on which to hold all of this heavy fabric. Over that went your sleeveless gown with detachable sleeves. And then you'll see this is the balzo again, but it's taken on a very different shape. Instead of being sort of conical at the back of the head like in the Quattrocento, now it's like a big donut. But these detachable sleeves with all of this ruching at the top Well, they have a name. They are called Baragoni sleeves. So they're large decorative puffs at the top of sleeves. Sometimes they would be attached to the top of the dress. Sometimes they would be attached to the top of the sleeve. Why were sleeves detachable? Well, it kind of makes sense. Sleeves get dirty very easily, don't they? They get into your food, you get ink on them, etc. Sleeves get dirty. It was a big deal to launder one of these gowns, right? So it was easier to have a bunch of sleeves you could replace every day or every couple of days without having to launder the whole dress. So this is why sleeves were detachable. Fashion is not an island, it's a response, and sometimes it's a response to messy eating. Here you see the Baragoni on a male doublet. Here is the colletto. This was a sheer piece of fabric, sometimes lace, sometimes it had pearls on it or beads, that was either pinned into the neckline of the gamura, the dress, which was a bit later, or at the beginning of the 15th century. It was pushed into the neckline, a bit like a shawl, like this. You see what I mean? And here is another colletto, and this one has a lattice lacework with pearls. Very pretty. This gives you an idea of what these dresses look like from the side, and you can see that there is an emphasis on the butt. This would change. There is no undergarment. The farthingale hadn't started quite yet in Italy.